It's good to see everyone here this evening. If you take your lesson 10, Deuteronomy, we're in this one, and we've got a little bit of chapter 33 and then chapter 34, Deuteronomy, to study for this evening. And I believe we'll get through it. And start into Obadiah. That will be our first minor prophet that we study. We're looking at the blessings that Moses is presenting unto the 12 tribes of Israel. We saw whose names are out and that sort of thing and those technical things. But we're looking at the blessings, and we got down to question number 12, when Naphtali. Now, this question is answered because you know geography. You know where Naphtali is located. And therefore, because all of these were the blessing of Jehovah, full of the blessing of Jehovah, verse 23, possess thou the west and the south. What area do you find Naphtali in? What sea or lake is it nearby? Galilee, fertile ground, blessing from Jehovah. There's a fertility that would be there into Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of the blessing of Jehovah. How does God bless them? They bless their land because they're in a fertile place for growing the crops of the things that are needed. So to me, that's the answer that we're looking at there of that particular blessing. So what regions of the promised land were they in? They were in a very fertile area near the Sea of Galilee. The next question, number 13, is what threefold blessing would the tribe of Asher enjoy? And there again is, looking at the text, you'll see what he mentioned, that we just have to kind of understand what they are. What is he, first of all? Will they have a lot of children? Will God bless them with children? Yeah, he'll bless them with children. Verse 24, blessed be Asher with children. That's going to be his particular blessing that will be upon them. That was very important to the tribes of Israel. The children and the abundance of children. Have your quiver full. It's indeed of a blessing of God. Secondly, let him be acceptable unto his brethren. Because he has a lot of children, the other tribes, his other brethren, and the tribes will look with favor upon that tribe. And so there will be a closeness of showing honor and favor unto Asher because of the children they'll be blessed. And then thirdly, he says, let him dip his foot in oil. What's that? What is that blessing about? What is that a picture of? Excuse me? Wealth, I think abundance. If you were, I don't know how to say this, but it would have to be pretty extravagant lifestyle that you dip your feet in oil all the time, that you dip your feet in that. The oil was very precious. I just dip my feet in that. That's kind of what I wash my feet at night with oil. That's very precious. But there's of abundance. They'll be fertile with children. They'll have prosperity with the dipping the feet in the oil. And what's the third thing there? What the bar is going to be like. Not drinking bars, but bars. Do they look like they may be strong? Thy bars shall be iron and brass. And he says, as the day, so shall thy strength be. Military power is an idea of the bars and their gates. They'll be powerful. Bars, brass. So fertility, idea of God blessing them with abundance and prosperity, and they will be protected well. That's a pretty good threefold blessing that would come upon Asher. What tribe is the widow in Luke when Jesus is being blessed? Where was she from? From Asher. And what's interesting about that is the fact that those were some of the 12 tribes of Israel, the northern kingdom, that after Assyrian captivity, they thought they were lost. That's what writers today say, because what happened to those lost tribes? They didn't ever come back, and therefore they must be lost. Oh, we found them in Great Britain. They're the ones that are going to be blessed. And they came over here to America from Great Britain, and so these people are going to be blessed by God because they're of those lost tribes, and one of them was Asher. But she knew in the New Testament times, after the Syrian captivity, they could trace their lineage to Asher. Apparently he wasn't so lost, was he? He wasn't a lost tribe. They're still there. They were still there recognizing she's from that particular tribe, even in the days of Jesus. So there's internal evidence from the Bible sometimes that you can look at those who want to have an agenda in order to set forth something intriguing, and that we indeed are part of Israel, the great people of Great Britain and America, that we are indeed of that tribe, and we're going to be blessed, as they then put in other promises that haven't been made yet. But that's a great blessing upon that particular tribe. Anything you want to add to Asher that you studied?
In the New King James, it says in 25 years, sandals shall be iron and brass. I don't know why that word is translated differently.
Well, it's military might. If they're sandals, it's going to be strong. They're bars, is what mine says. So, but that's still the military might. Their sandals will be strong because why? They'll be marching and fighting. And so, whichever, I look at all the translations, what it's emphasizing is the military strength and power. And depending on the different manuscripts that you have and the technical things that come there. But some of the translations have that. But it's the idea of what stands in front of the enemy. Some of that's the bars of the city, or it may be the army that's going to defend their people. Asher, coming from that. But that's a good point to make. All right, any thoughts? All right, question 14. What two ways does Moses exalt God? We're looking at poetry. In essence, we're looking at the blessings that come from there, and a lot of this is imagery that we have to interpret, but it's based upon context of, just like Naphtali, be the full blessing of Jehovah in their particular land, a lot of places where they were. But what do you see, what language do you see? Because God, he begins to exalt him after we see Asher. He says, there is none like unto God. That sounds like, I have a question here. How does Moses exalt God? That might be where I start. There is none like unto God. Who is he addressing? Who is Jeshurun? What does the word mean? It is Israel because it means upright. This is the way God wants his people to be, upright. We've seen it two other times in the Deuteronomy, when it's exalting Israel as they should be, not as they became idolatrous people and they didn't stay in their land that we're getting them into in the book of Deuteronomy. But Jeshurun, there's no God like unto God, O Jeshurun, who rideth upon the heavens for thy help. I help my people, the upright ones. That's the blessing he wants the people to have. Now he will come with judgment upon them when they do wrong. But what's he exalted as? He rides upon the heavens for thy help. His excellency is in the skies. So the glory that's connected with God there would be what? How would you describe that? You sum that thought together and then you present, he's exalted as what? I wonder if you lived in the days of Israel and 4 fighter pilots just blew over the sands of Israel. Would that get your attention? Look what just happened in the skies. Something of the skies is exalted. It's high. And his power doesn't come from the ground. It's way up high. And it's so high, it will kind of take in the angels when he needs them. In the skies, that's where his glory is seen. He brings forth thousands of angels in order to do battle for the cause of his righteous, upright people called Jeshurun. That's the image we're getting. And to me, it's great exaltation. The second way he does that, he considers him eternal, everlasting. So this power that he rides upon the sky, he just rides through it. It's impossible for us to do that, especially back in this day. But he says, the eternal God is thy dwelling place. Israel, you dwell, eternal God, and who is always there uplifting you? An everlasting God that doesn't cease to exist. But he says, underneath are the everlasting arms. Underneath are the everlasting arms. Is that a thing of comfort? You're just like one newscaster today, when they looked at those lights around when the night came, the lights that were blinking around wherever they had the inaugural day, they reminded them of Mr. Biden's carrying arms. That's what those lights reminded people who were doing the play-by-play. Though I didn't see him be in his arms, but that's what it represented. Well, he's not everlasting. Who is? God is. And that's under his wing, because he's flying in the skies. He's there to protect you. And that's where your dwelling place is, underneath the everlasting arms. And he thrust out the enemy from before thee and said, destroy, destroy. So, his power, his glory, as he rides in the skies, his eternal nature, Moses just exalted him. And that's who he is today. He's everlasting, and his power is there. How he goes about bringing forth his will to be accomplished. He accomplishes it. And I just think it's a beautiful picture, description of two ways in which he exalts God. Anything else you'd like to add to that? Question 15, what is the secret to being a happy people? How to be a happy people? What's the secret to that in this blessing that we see here? All right, I'll read verses 28 and 29. It says, Israel dwelleth in safety, the fountain of Jacob alone, in a land of grain and new wine. Yes, the heavens drop down dew. There's his blessings. Happy art thou, O Israel. So you're enjoying the blessings that come back. But happy art thou, O Israel. And then here's where you might get the answer. Who is like unto thee, a people saved by Jehovah? Has he just exalted him with great power? Destroy, I will bring forth my power. I'm riding the skies. I'm everlasting. There's not a time when I do not have this power. And I say destroy. Happy are the people when you realize Jehovah is indeed saves his people. He's the protector. How does he describe that? The shield of thy help. The sword of thy excellence, when you're going to be excellent and you're going to remain Jeshurun, you're going to remain God's upright people, and thine enemies shall submit themselves unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. Why? Because your God is even higher than they are. And you ride underneath, you dwelleth underneath his wings, and he swoops down and destroys on your behalf Jeshurun, not apostate Israel, but those are his people. That's what they're supposed to be. And what a way to end a blessing. You're getting ready to go into a new land, a new generation of God's people. They've dwelt in the wilderness long enough, 40 years. A generation has been wiped out because of their disobedience. And here is what they can look at. What exalts you is your God. And hopefully they won't leave him. They shouldn't, but we know from history they do that. But he's brought, as we saw, he wrote a song it has blessing, but it was an indictment against God's people when they do sin. But he ends with the blessing that he has for all the people if they'll remain Jeshurun, if they'll remain those people. So there's a song, and there's the blessing, and now we have kind of the last of Moses. which he probably didn't write. He's going to die. And whoever brought that probably brought his song, brought his blessing, and put that in these last few chapters. So we're looking at what happens with Moses at the end, an epitaph that we're looking at. Any questions on the blessings? Again, it's the imagery. You got to interpret that. All right, from where did Moses view the promised land before his death? All right, we talk about Mount Nebo. Where is that Where is that located? Remember, this is where Aaron died, way down here in the wilderness. But Mount Nebo is here near Jericho. We'll see it's another place in this chapter that he'll look at. But there's the Dead Sea, and we're in the land of Moab, ancient Moab. And of course, these particular the tribes of Israel, like Reuben, will be up in this area, will inherit this particular land. But that's what we're observing here is where he dies. He's Mount Nebo. Now, how does my Bible says in the plains of Moab unto Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah? Could Pisgah be a part of Mount Nebo, or is that a separate mountain? It could be a summit ridge that is there on Mount Nebo, which I think it is. Sometimes it's called Pisgah, but in that mountain there's ridges, and he went to the top, and it's called Pisgah. And what does he do up there? How is he viewing the land? We asked that question. Where did Bob view the land before his death? Now, by looking at the description that's here, and doesn't mean it happened. Did he look at it from his right to left, counterclockwise, or did he look at it from his left to right? He said, why don't you ever get that from the text? Read the text. If the text, and it so happens it's in order, it doesn't jump everywhere. If the text, and you just read these places, is he going the way the clock goes or counterclockwise when he's standing up and looking to the west? Again, you got to know some geography, but if you do, is he starting up north, Dan? Land of Gilead, Dan, to Naphtali. You just told me where Naphtali was. Let's get on down and get to the Sea of Galilee. We're going down now. Ephraim, Manasseh, all the land of Judah. We're further south. We're going into Judah, all the land unto the hinder sea. What would that be? What's the hinder? I got the Sea of Galilee. What's behind the Sea of Galilee? The Mediterranean Sea. Now, people, historians, the people that they've never been able to see from Mount Pisgah, well, Mount Nebo, the Mediterranean Sea from that place. Men have not been able to do that. They've tried it. They put it to the test. The Bible says here to the hinder sea. Did he actually see that or knew that was in that direction? Or did God give him that ability that day to see that? I don't know. But he says the hinder sea, which is dealing with, there would be to the west. As far as the west is going to see, you can see the Sea of Mediterranean Sea. But I've never read where people have gone and explored these things have ever been able to see that sea from Mount Nebo. Maybe the atmosphere is wrong, what all that happens, but I've never read. I got to see it one day, but Moses got to see it, I think, if we take it the way it says. And the south, we're heading south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho, and the city of palm trees unto Zorah. Zorah is probably on the south portion of the Dead Sea. We've headed south. And he showed him the land that he had swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he looked counterclockwise. He looked from up here down this way. If that's the order in which he saw it. That's the order, and God put it. And I can see, I don't see him jumping everywhere, looking everywhere. He's probably took a gaze. And to me, the text just allows that. And there's nothing that would contradict that. And he's looking at it. Look at it. And even to see something that man is not able to see today, which is, I think, kind of amazing too. And you say, well, that's supernatural things. Well, we're not through with supernatural things yet with Moses. And we'll continue. So I don't rule that out, because there's other things that happen here that are kind of mysterious. But we kind of know where it was, and to be able to, he saw that land, but he wasn't able to go in and come out before them as a leader, to go into that land and be a leader for them, because we know that Joshua is indeed accomplishing that. Anything about Nebo, Pisgah, that you've studied that you'd like to add to the conversation? Pisgah is probably a summit ridge, part of Nebo. Where is Moses' body buried? Try. How many people you talk to and nobody knows where nobody knows where the grave of Moses is? That's true, but you just gave some place, and it's real. That's a real thing. You got, well, when you talk about near Beth Baal Peor, he says near there, it's in that valley. Where is Nebo? It's down here. You're in this particular region, and there's the Mount Fugo out here. But here's Nebo, and here is that valley. This is in the area of Moab. That's where they are. He died there in Moab, and I would think most people. So we don't know where he's buried. You know where he's buried, in the sense of, I know the region, but I don't ever think like that until I read my Bible. I forget that. What I'm thinking about is the part that he put there. Nobody to this day knows exactly where his sepulcher is. Unto this day, of the day of writing this history of God's people and Moses. Now, you can interpret, no man, he says he buried him he buried him. Who's he? I just saw a cowboy picture today. It was on there. They said, and an outlaw, I said, let him bury himself. And they just flew him over a ridge. It was snowy and cold. They want to bury a grave. So he buried himself? I don't think so. Did God bury him? Possibility. Why would you think that? Why would you scripturally think that God buried him?
He is capitalizing.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's good enough. No man knows where the grave is. Don't you think the man who buried him might know where the grave is? So it's a thought. It's a possibility that you're seeing there. Also, what do we read in Jude 9 about Michael the archangel? He had a debate. He had a confrontation with the devil over what? The body of Moses. The body of Moses. Why would they have a confrontation over that? Maybe, Michael, you're going to bury him. God could miraculously cover him up. But I think God did this. And that's why the other parts there, it harmonizes. No man knows where the grave is. You know the area. God just told you where the area is. We know where it is. So it's not that we don't know where he's buried. We just know where his sepulcher is in that particular region. Why? Because I think God took care of that body. That's that's a strange thing. It's something that is reserved for Moses. I think it's part of God exalting him, though he condemned him, punished him, would not allow him to go into the land. But having Michael the archangel deal with the devil over Moses, I mean, those are your two big power brokers right there. The devil and Michael the archangel. And Michael the archangel says, leave that to God. That showed how much he respected God. to take care of the devil. And I think, did the devil bury him? I don't think he wins. I think God took care of that, and no man knows. Yes?
There's no scale on that map. Do you know about the approximate distance between some of those areas?
Well, I didn't put that. No, that's blown up, and it's not that far, but I don't know exactly the distance. And that whole mountain range there, I know they got, the reason I think it's divided like you're thinking about the distance would be, I could say Mount Moab, Mount Nebo, it's right there at it. But it's over against Beth Peor. I think it's showing it's a little bit away in that region. And there's other mountains that are named between the two. So I'd have to find that out. I don't know how far that is. No, I think it's not too far. Because he's still in Moab. But he's over against what town that would be. And it's there. I don't think in this map I had because they were blowing up words and stuff like that to get the... Well, that hurts me too. I don't know. I don't think in times that. 39 inches equal 25 kilometers. I know it's not true. It's there. I'll go find it and I'll put that in there. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
I've got a reference of 27 kilometers to Jericho.
So it's a pretty good distance. So what? 1.6 miles is a kilometer? Something like that? Less than 50 miles, but that's that's quite a bit of space there. Thank you. All right, other thoughts? All right. Question number 18. Describe the physical condition of Moses at the time of his death. We've looked at that before, but we kind of sum it up. How old was he? You can divide his life in 40, 40, 40, can't you? Major events that happened in his life. And 40 years old, 80 years old, now 120, when he's about to bring them into the land of Canaan. He was with them and they're wandering for 40 years. And here he is 40 years old when he's supposed to bring them out of captivity. So his life kind of works that way. But he says his eye was not dim. And in our modern days, and we have all sorts of helps with eyesight and that sort of thing. To me, that's kind of remarkable. His eyes are not dim. It didn't mean that they hadn't gotten old with age, but I think he could still see. They hadn't gotten dim where he was blind, where others in the Bible have done that. And his natural force, or he had not wasted away. Abated means kind of waste. And he still had some vigor that's connected to 120 years old at that time. It's not that he wasn't old, but those are things that are connected with him. Of his strength for his age, I think were remarkable, and I think God had blessed him with that. That's his physical condition at that time. And other people, think of a lot of other things about it, but those are the things that the Bible says. Anything you want to add to that? Died a pretty strong man for that age, and there's sorrow connected with this, but what did Joshua have which equipped him for leadership? As now he dies and Joshua is going to take his place. What does verse 9 say? Okay, Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom. Why? For Moses had laid his hands upon him, and the children of Israel hearkened unto him as Jehovah commanded him. Well, did he pass on miraculous spiritual gifts through the laying on of hands? We see that happen in the New Testament. But it could be laying on of hands, but sometimes giving authority to. The apostles, when they went on their journey, Paul and Barnabas, the elders laid hands upon them. They didn't lay hands so they didn't get the Spirit, miraculous gifts, but they laid hands upon them to appoint them to the service. But one thing Joshua had was what? He had the spirit of wisdom. I think in some way he was full of the spirit of wisdom. I think God filled him miraculously with spirit of wisdom. And it very well may have gone through the hands of Moses, that servant. But most of the time that was appointing them to the service. You're the one that's going to be taking over this work, not me. I can't go in and go out anymore. It's not because I'm old. That wasn't the reason. It's that I'm not going to be your leader. And we've discussed that. So he had the spirit of wisdom given to him. There would be men who would make things for the temple. They had special gifts from God, miraculous gifts to do things. So it's not something out of the ordinary of how God would use the miraculous to equip him. How does God remember his prophet Moses? To me, it's just a remarkable ending for a man who disappointed God and had to be punished by God. I'm going to read it slowly. There hath not risen a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses. Is that a pretty good statement? That God, when you're leaving book of Deuteronomy, here's what I think about Moses. God. But we know what Moses promised in Deuteronomy 18, our study. There would be a prophet come like unto Moses. Who fulfilled that promise? He's already been fulfilled. A prophet did come like unto Moses. Well, who was he? He's Jesus. Peter preached it, so I know it's true. And there's the sense of that had at this time happened, but he would come. Whom Jehovah knew face to face. What does that mean? He knew him face to face. Talk to him directly. Remember when he's confronting Miriam? They say, you take too much on you. And God says, I talk to him face to face. If I want a prophet, I'll give him a vision. He's a prophet. He distinguished between a vision and face to face. A little bit later, he'll say, I'll talk to him face to face as a friend. There's that close contact as a friend. Yes, he's a prophet, but he indeed is face to face, denoting that I will speak to him directly, indirectly through a bush, that sort of thing. But it was as a friend, face to face. He's special to me. And all the signs and the wonders. So are we talking about miraculous works here? Signs and wonders which Jehovah sent him to do where? Do you remember what that was about? He's going to go lead the people out, and you tell them, I has sent you, and I'm going to give you the power to do these miraculous signs unto them. They'll finally let the people go. So that's what he did in Egypt, but what did he do before the people? Because it's the final part that he makes. And he says, when he did it to Pharaoh and all of his servants and to all his land, and in all the mighty hands, so there's your power, miraculous power, and all the great terror which Moses wrought in the sight of all Israel. That's their wilderness wanderings. And it ends there. Because they're getting ready to go inhabit the land that God had promised them. So what a great statement about no prophet like unto him is risen to this day when this was written. I know him face to face as a friend, and I gave him miraculous signs to do to confirm who he was in delivering the people out of Egypt and trying to get the people of God to keep trusting in God. That indeed, man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Jehovah. He gave them manna. He suffered them to hunger. God did that to get them to see, I'm prospering you. I am sustaining you through my leader, Moses. And so that's how it ends. Anything you'd like to add to that?